Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Nottingham Buddhist Centre online drop-in meditation. It's Tuesday, 13th of October. We're kind of back into some kind of lockdown situation. For foreseeable future, we're online mostly. We were starting to open up for some classes and stuff of a very sort of limited nature, and that's all gone again. So I guess this is just a new reality we're going to have to work out. So for the being, we'll be doing these online, and there will be changes coming up. We've already done some changes which you may be aware of. So if you go onto our channel, we have a playlist which details all of the meditations we do here, offering you the basic structure of both meditations, Mindfulness of Breathing and Metta Bhavana. And they also offer you some tips on things like posture, and all sorts of just things that come up in meditation, really. So do check those out. They're quite short, quite to the point. And what that does is it means that I don't have to kind of introduce the meditation every week. So it frees us up to do something a little bit different. So tonight is going to be the Metta Bhavana, and I've done a few meditation retreats, and actually they've mostly been on the Metta Bhavana. I'm going to bring in a few little things that I've kind of picked up on those retreats. I chose to name this session Identifying with the World. And I think that's really quite an important thing to do, to be aware of just generally, but particularly when you're doing the Metta Bhavana, is when we sort of separate ourselves off from people, we're mostly identifying with ourselves and what we want and what I want and what they've got and all that sort of stuff. And in that sense, it's very much like we're not doing the Metta Bhavana when we do that. And you're probably quite aware that there's quite a contrast there. For me, someone on a retreat recently said that, they didn't know what compassion was. And actually, that's a fair comment, I think. Do we know what compassion really is? We talk about loving kindness a lot. We try to identify it and encourage it in our experience, try to make it more of a feature of our lives. And quite often, compassion will be a part of that meditation. We'll have this sense of fellow feeling for other people, for other beings. There could be animals, there could be anything. And we have that sense of identity with them. We identify with them on some level. And I think when we stop doing that, that's when we start to become quite focused on ourselves and our ego. And we kind of get stuck into what's occasionally called power mode, where we're just kind of trying to get what we want, or avoid what we don't want. Whereas when we start to identify more deeply with the world, we start to drop that a little bit, and we start to become aware of other realities, and the realities of other people. Everybody has their own sort of reality, and we become more aware of that, and we can identify with it in some way. There's a good friend of mine who's a very experienced teacher, was recently saying that when you have a feeling, no matter what that feeling actually is, other people will be having that feeling. They've either had it before, or they'll have it in the future, or they're having it now. And that's a good way to try and remind yourself that actually, this may be anger or joy or whatever it is that I'm feeling. It doesn't necessarily have need to refer to me. It can refer to the whole of existence. And that's quite a sort of thing that shakes you a little bit. It shook me anyway. It's sort of like, a lot of my experience is about me. And we are trained in that way in some ways. So, but this meditation really challenges that, I think. And for me, compassion is really about a deep sort of identification with other people, with the world generally. Now, there are a few dangers in that, I think. One of the dangers in that is that we can become a little bit sort of horrified by the world. Particularly, now, we're not doing well in various ways. And in some ways, if you start to identify with that world more, you can become a bit horrified and a bit anxious, or probably a lot anxious. And there is a sort of something called an enemy in meditation. And what that means is that states come up that aren't really what you're looking for. They're not necessarily compassion, they're not necessarily metta. And one of those things that can come up when we identify deeply with the world, particularly when we identify with the suffering of the world, is that we can become what's called horrified anxiety. We start to generate this kind of fear, worry, concern, all of this sort of stuff. And it can sort of block us a little bit from really identifying. So just be aware if that happens in this meditation, because chances are it will, particularly if you're the kind of meditator who focuses a little bit on people's suffering. Sometimes that happens in the metta bhavana. It'll have a flavour. And if you are concerned about others, particularly in the way the world is at the moment, it probably is the case that you are thinking about people's suffering quite a bit. I know a lot of people out there doing that at the moment, and it's but we can do something else. We can turn it into genuine compassion, which is a kind of power, if you like. It's a kind of way of being in the world that gives you a lot of options in life. It gives you a lot of integrated sort of thought, if you like. So we're going to have a look at that, and I think what we're doing there as well when we do that is we're transforming our world and ourselves. This is what the metta bhavana is doing all the time. And when we choose to identify more deeply with the world, we're really taking a lot more responsibility than we normally might do. I mean, certainly in some ways you can occasionally feel yourself maybe closing down a little bit at times. Just because there's so much going on, you think, well, what can I do? And that's understandable, really. But really, when you're doing the metta bhavana, you're just choosing to engage. You're not committing to doing anything in particular, but what you're doing is staying connected with the world. And I think that's just really, really important at the moment. Because I've certainly felt this way, and I think it would be very easy to go down this route of sort of like, I just can't, I can't deal with what's happening. But actually, just choosing to stay engaged is a really powerful thing to do at the moment, I think. Just being aware of all the suffering out there. But also just trying to tune into the fact that there's still quite a lot of positivity and joy out there. So when we're talking about taking in a reality other than our own, that can have the whole spectrum of humanity: joy, tragedy, fear, love, all of those things come into play. So we're identifying with a very, very broad spectrum of experience when we do the metta bhavana. We're not discriminating between any of those states, really. So I won't say too much more. I'll presume that you kind of know what the structure of the meditation is, but I will introduce each stage as we do it. So you won't be just kind of left hanging if you are particularly new and haven't worked with the playlist that we've got on our channel yet. I don't think I'll say too much more about it at the moment, other than one phrase that I'll use actually. There's a traditional phrase in this meditation called "May you be well, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering." So I'll use that as a way to keep ourselves engaged with this flow of positivity that we're going to try and generate. And we'll use that as a way to connect with the world. One thing that I always think is really important about the metta bhavana is it emotionally connects the whole world together. Without that, we're kind of like these little atoms that just bimble around trying to do things. But when we have a lot of feeling of metta, then we start to act in a more unified kind of a way. You have more of a sense that you are connected to other people, you are connected to the world. It's almost the opposite of an alienated state, if that makes any sense. I'll leave that there for now, and we'll just go straight into the meditation. So if you're feeling like you've got a good posture at the moment, it's a posture that you can maintain probably for about 25 minutes or so. And we'll start with not quite a body scan, more of an emotion scan, if there is such a thing. And yeah, that will just help us to sort of tune into where we're starting from. So it's just a very important thing, really. So if you are ready, just close your eyes. We're just going to take a few moments to start to look inward. Start to bring awareness to our experience. And whatever this is for you, there'll be something there in the foreground. Something that's the most prominent part of your experience at the moment. Could be a bodily sensation. Could be a feeling tone of some kind. Or it may be a particular thought pattern, a story or a memory or something that's happening, a mental event. And just notice where you're starting from. What's happening for you at the moment? What is it that's going to be transformed by this meditation? Just bring awareness to your breath. Your breath is often a good indicator of what your emotional state is. We're not trying to change the breath at all, just notice what's happening. And just try to bring a sense of general relaxation to the body. Allow it to support itself. And we can bring particular attention down to our abdomen, around our belly button. Sometimes around there we can sense our emotional tone. Tuning in to how the breath changes this part of the body. And just raise our awareness a little bit around our heart. Just allow the heart to feel soft. Sense its rhythm. Just bringing a sense of opening and relaxation to that part of the body. Tuning into the physical sensations of how we're feeling. Tuning in to the rhythm of the breath, allowing that rhythm to relax us. And try to look for a sense of contentment with the simplicity of our experience. We've dropped the input, we're not moving, and just enjoy the simplicity of that experience. So now in the first stage of the Metta we're going to bring ourself to mind. And as with every stage, we'll just take some time to notice what happens when we bring ourselves to mind. What happens in our body, what happens to our feelings, and what is the mental content associated with ourselves. So staying with what arose when we brought ourselves to mind, we can start to bring an intention towards that. An intention to transform that energy, to empower that energy by wishing ourselves well, wishing ourselves happiness, health and freedom. May I be well, may I be happy, may I be free from suffering. Taking this opportunity, whatever arose when we brought ourselves to mind, to identify with ourselves, positive terms. Bringing a sense of understanding, gentleness, kindness towards yourself. And tuning in to what happens around your heart area when you do this. Opening your own heart to yourself. So now in the second stage, we bring to mind a good friend. And again, just tune in to what happens when you bring this person into your experience. And now, whatever it is that we found when we brought our good friend to mind, we start to bring an intention towards them, identifying with them more deeply. May they be well, may they be happy, may they be free from suffering. Using our positive emotion to bring this person closer and closer towards us. May they be well, may they be happy, may they be free from suffering. So now in the third stage, we bring to mind a neutral person. Should be someone that you can get a good visual sense of, but you don't really know them. Could be someone you see at work, or he just maybe lives on your street, something like that. Here we're going to use metta to come close to someone that we don't have a particular relationship with. We don't like them, we don't dislike them, but their reality is just as deep and rich and as real to them as ours is to us. And we can choose to bring an intention towards that person. Just on the basis that they're another sentient being like we are. Just as we want to be free, to be happy, to be healthy, this is also what they want. And we can cultivate this intention towards them. May they be well, may they be happy, may they be free from suffering. Choosing to overcome this distance between us. You can wish them well, start to identify more deeply with them. Now may be a good time to check in with yourself about how this practice is making you feel. Just a sense of contrast from when you first sat down. Have been any physical changes, changes in your emotional state, changes in the type of mental events that are happening. All of these things are open to transformation from the metta bhavana. Opening our hearts to the neutral person, generating a sense of connection and identity with them. So now in the fourth stage, we bring to mind a difficult person. Shouldn't be someone from which there's a long history or very, very deep animosity, but just someone who has some difficulty at the moment. Things are not quite smooth with them. And here we're just choosing to connect with a person who may actually drive us away in some way, or we choose to be driven away by them. And here we're going to use the power of Metta Bhavana to bring us closer to people that we wouldn't normally choose to be close to. Transforming this energy of aversion into compassion, into metta, into concern for other beings. We may feel aversion to this person, but that's just a very, very small part of what's happening for them. Just as our world can never be contained by that one thought or feeling about them, their world can't be contained by our thoughts about them. Choosing to cultivate an intention towards them, transforming aversion into compassion, into metta. May they be well, may they be happy, may they be free from suffering. Maintaining a sense of softness around our heart, tuning into how cultivating metta is making us feel. So now in the final stage, we bring to mind all four people. Ourselves, the good friend, the neutral person, and the difficult person. Holding us all together in our minds. We can start to cultivate a general intention to the whole group, allowing metta to flow forth to all people equally, all four people. Choosing to identify more deeply with each one of them, not discriminating about where our metta goes, just allowing it to flow towards all four people equally. And now holding all four people in mind, equalizing this sense of metta, we start to radiate out this feeling of loving kindness out further than the room we're in. To include people in the building we might be in, people in the street where we live, wishing them well, wishing them happiness and freedom. Just allowing this feeling of metta to flow, identifying with all beings that we encounter in our minds, radiating out further across the village or town or city, wherever we are. Wherever our metta encounters sentient beings, we wish them well, we wish them happiness, we wish them freedom. And also tune in to being the recipient of other people's metta. Wherever people are doing this meditation at the moment, you are also included when they start to radiate out metta. Just tuning into the feeling of metta being directed towards us too. Radiating metta out across the country, across the continents, wherever you are, around the world, metta without limit. To include all women, all men, all children, to include the healthy and the sick, radiating out metta in all directions. And again, just take time to notice how you're feeling, how performing this meditation is making you feel. Connecting more deeply with the world, what effect does that have on you? So now as we approach the end of the meditation, just taking a bit of time to come back into the room, tune back into your body, to your feeling tone. Sense of softness around the heart. And just notice how you feel. And then when you're ready, just gently open your eyes and bring the meditation to a close. Okay, well thanks for joining us tonight, folks. I hope that was a good session for you. And I shall be back, I think it's going to be next Tuesday. I'm covering for Gareth. He's away on a retreat next week, so I'll be here at lunchtime. Next week we're doing the Mindfulness of Breathing. And yeah, if you are able to make a donation to us today, we're very, very grateful for that as ever. So there should be a link in the description, and if you go to